Satisfaction. It doesn't get much press, does it? There's no clickbait instability, no breaking news imbalance, no cliffhanger and even keel. Hearts don't beat faster, palms don't get sweaty, mouths don't dry up. In fact, we do our level best to avoid its average reputation. Why celebrate satisfaction? Because it makes sense to. That's why. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Annmarie O'Connor. I'm a 44-year-old self-help author. I'm single. I still rent. I earn less than most of my peers. I had a cat, but he left me. And I still don't know how to drive. Come on. By society's standards, I'm invisible. By my standards, I'm rather satisfied. Admittedly, my life may sound more like a country and western song than that of a self-help author, but aside from the packaging, it's what I've always wanted. But more on that later. Are you still with me? This is generally the point where I lose people. Nobody queues up to hear about the life more ordinary. The speed and immediacy of our digital world has shifted our perspective from grand to awesome. We've been primed to expect more, to aspire to better, nothing less than the best. What's more, we've got the social media tools to ensure our own perfectly filtered narratives always end in a happily ever after. The reality? It's making us miserable. Think about it. The very concept of having it all carries a huge burden. All suggests the whole of. The whole of what exactly? All is limitless, and to be fair, that's a mighty big ask. These days, wanting enough has become the equivalent of farting in public. An embarrassing gaffe we'd rather not admit to. In a culture bent on personal agency, enough is never enough, especially when the prospect of reinvention promises so many possibilities. Lost your job? Build an empire. A bit skint? Become a financial ninja. Looking for love? Swipe right until your finger cramps. Just when we begin to feel the audible hum of contentment in the ether, some sneaky fecker upgrades the software. If only we could find the reset button. What if we could? What if it were that easy? What if in changing the definition of happiness from having it all to wanting what we have, from being our best selves to just being ourselves, finding that sweet spot, that happy medium could be less of an epic journey and more of a cakewalk? And let's be honest, who doesn't like cake? My recommendation? To make the bold decision to be enough, to be grand. But first, let's put satisfaction and happiness into context. Defined as to do enough, satisfaction is often seen as the gateway to happiness rather than an end in itself. In fact, satisfaction is frequently overlooked in favor of her hotter cousin happiness, who, let's face it, has her own theme tune, thanks Pharrell, is measured by economists, promised by politicians, and relentlessly pursued by the masses. 2 words: tough odds. Happiness, on the other hand, does bear the brunt of expectation, a certain have-it-all image amplified by her universal celebrity status. Satisfaction's less Googled reputation makes her slightly overlooked, but also free from public projection. No one expects a lot, you see, from the smart yet plain sidekick, which is why she's got the upper hand over happiness. Consider satisfaction the unsung administrator of your well-being. Without her, nothing gets done. Calmer and less intense, she helps focus attention on what matters most. Happiness may be the stuff of fantasy, but satisfaction, she's the real deal. And no, this is not a mantra of mediocrity. Eastern mystics from Buddha to Confucius and Lao Tzu all praise the middle path. Greek philosophers like Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato touted the doctrine of the mean. Even modern Swedes believe in a life of lagom, meaning just the right amount. As for us, we may be a grand nation, but somewhere along the way, we confused doing our best with not doing enough, being content with just ticking over. Somewhere along the way, we developed notions. Well, how in the name of grand did that all happen? Well, thanks to our tablets, our smartphones, and even smarter watches, the incessant flux of information in our lives means only the truly exceptional, that 1%, can make a real impact on our conscious awareness. Second best rarely gets a look in. In order to be seen or heard, the onus is on each and every one of us to break a record, break the internet, break wind even, so long as we come first, so long as everybody knows about it. Combine this with a niche for instant results, and soon our own personal goals are put on fast forward too. The 4-hour work week, the 5-minute motivator, the 60-second life coach, 20 seconds to charisma. Who wants to be a millionaire may well be the catchphrase of our generation. After all, who wants to be a civil servant doesn't quite have the same ring. In a world obsessed with more, finding that center point is no mean feat. So how do we decide what will make us satisfied? How do we get back to grand? I'll tell you how in 5 simple steps. Step 1, kill comparisons. We're all creatures of social comparison. It's part of our evolutionary makeup. Continually wondering how happy we are compared to others, we look upward and downward for clues that we're moving forward. Add to this a 5.5-inch LED backlit widescreen next-generation smartphone, and suddenly keeping up with the Joneses has multiplied to keeping up with the entire world. You see, it's not like our day-to-day dealings are jonesing for a thumbs-up emoji, but a quick scan of the internet makes it look like the entire world is celebrating a hallmark moment. Think about it. If social networks and search engines use algorithms to predict what we're most likely to click, they're hardly going to service up a post of some young lad who almost made the big time but took a job selling insurance. And they're certainly not going to prioritize an image of the front row of Mass over the front row at Fashion Week. This selection bias can have us confuse the best with what's normal, reality with what exists online. In order to make satisfying choices, it's up to you to decide what's worth your attention. Here's how. Step 2, get real. As a society, we love successes, the game changers, the tastemakers, the Insta-famous, the trendsetters, the online entrepreneurs, the stories of those who made it big from a few quid and a big idea. Where this presents a problem is when we interpret these stories to suit our own narratives. Soon, the one-offs and the one-shot deals, despite being unique examples, become expectations for ourselves, which can lead us to overestimate our own potential. And yeah, there is a link between happiness and self-esteem, but too much self-esteem can lead to dashed hopes and a bang of entitlement. Step 3 even. Step 3, Be grateful. So you don't have a house in the Hollywood Hills, a primetime reality show, or Colin Farrell on speed dial. Most of us don't. What's worth your attention is what you already have. Look, sometimes life comes gift-wrapped a bit differently to how we'd expect, but it's up to us to focus more on its favors and less on what we perceive to be its flaws. I should know. Let's recap, shall we? Not on the property ladder, never married, of questionable income, can't drive, abandoned by a cat. What a catch. But on the flip side, I've written 2 books. I have a family and friends that I love. I live in a country I call home, and I have flexibility to do my one true love, which is writing. If I had a fleet of kids, a high-powered corporate job, and Michael Fassbender to call my husband, I may never have had the opportunity and the freedom to pursue that one true love. And this, my friends, is not the consolation prize. This is the prize. Step 4, celebrate small moments. You don't have to bungee jump off the Burj Khalifa Tower or go on an Eat, Pray, Love excursion to Southeast Asia to create a life worth living. These big, broadcastable moments happen maybe a handful of times in our lives, if we're lucky. Small moments, on the other hand, happen more frequently than Kanye West Twitter rants, albeit with less fanfare. You know it as the hour is lost to a great conversation. The spike in ice cream sales on a sunny day in Ireland. Watching your children sleep. Or that first cup of coffee when you get up in the morning. These are the storytelling moments of our lives. This is where enough is more than enough. And finally, step 5, decide to be satisfied. It was decision-making theorist Herbert A. Simon who coined the term satisficing back in 1956, when he maintained that we should embrace good enough over best in matters of judgment. Why? Because it's not humanly possible for us to access every single piece of information at our disposal, especially in today's digital age, let alone expect our poor brains to process it all. So, if there's no such thing as the optimal choice, what are we chasing after? The bad news? Unless you're Yoda or the Dalai Lama, chances are you're not a satisficer. That said, a little satisfaction does go a long way. Besides, trying to get your life to fit some cookie cutter version even of reality is only going to disappoint, so why overthink it? All you can do is your best version of best. Then it's up to you to leave well enough alone. Look, if you want the sweeter journey in life, then take the cakewalk. Give grand a go. After all, if you're not satisfied, how happy can you really be? Thank you.